So, what is actually going on in your head right before you decide to buy something? Well, we're about to find out. We're going to crack open a classic text from 1921 called The Mind of the Buyer. And you know what? It's kind of wild how these ideas, a century old, perfectly explain why we click Add to Cart today.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll imagine the buyer's mind as this constantly flowing river. Then we'll walk through the 5 key stages of any sale, from grabbing someone's attention to that final moment of decision. We'll even look at the clash between gut feelings and actual science. And most importantly, we'll uncover what the real goal of selling is. Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first, let's nail down this core concept. A buyer's mind is never a blank slate just waiting for your sales pitch. I mean, think about it. Right now, you're listening to me, but you might also be thinking about what's for dinner or that email you need to send. That's what's called the stream of thought. And the key thing is, it never, ever stops moving.
As the author, H.D. Kitson saw it way back in 1921. Every single sale is a journey. And whether you're using a fancy ad, a slick presentation, or even just a simple image, your job is to be the guide that leads the buyer's mind through a really predictable set of psychological stages.
Yeah, just think about it. Your mind is never still, right? So the challenge for a seller isn't just to get their product somewhere near that stream. Oh no. The real challenge is to jump right into the middle of it, divert that flow, and make their product the one thing you can't stop thinking about, even if it's only for a few crucial seconds.
So how in the world do you break into that constantly moving stream of thought? Well, it all starts with a classic 1-2 punch. First, you've got to grab their attention, and then you have to immediately turn that attention into real, genuine interest. First, you just have to cut through all the noise. That's attention. But here's the thing. A flash of attention is totally useless if it doesn't evolve into interest. Interest is that magic moment when a person goes from just noticing something to actually picturing it in their own life. It's a difference between seeing an ad for a car and imagining yourself behind the wheel.
So this breaks down the raw, almost primal ways to grab that initial attention. Think about it. Intensity, that's the loud noise in a commercial. Extensity, or just sheer size, is that giant billboard you physically can't ignore on the highway. Movement is the reason those animated ads on websites are so darn distracting. And repetition? Well, that's why you can still sing a jingle from a commercial you saw 5 times last night. Okay, so you've got their interest. They're picturing the product in their life. Now the next step is to really turn up the heat, transforming that casual interest into a powerful desire. And you have to do it while building unshakable confidence.
Desire is that leap you take from, that's a nice phone, to, wow, that camera will make my vacation photos look incredible. But desire is totally worthless without confidence. You might desire that new phone, but you're not going to buy it unless you're absolutely confident that the battery will last all day, just like they promised.
And this quote just gets to the heart of the paradox of trust, doesn't it? Building confidence can take years, sometimes generations. But as the author points out, it's also unbelievably fragile. All that hard work can be completely shattered overnight with just one broken promise. So everything we've talked about, attention, interest, desire, confidence, it's all leading up to this one single critical point. The book calls it the psychological moment. It's that split second where maybe flips into a yes. The goal, as it's written here, is to fan the flame of the idea until it becomes the consuming interest. What that really means is you make the idea of owning that product so powerful, so compelling, that all the other objections, the cost, the hassle, all those little nagging doubts, they just temporarily fade away into nothing.
So the big question is, how do you even spot this moment before it's gone? Well, the book talks about a salesperson reading these tiny physical cues, a little nod, a change in expression. For us today, the digital version is seeing someone add an item to their cart, or maybe watch them hover their mouse over the Buy Now button for just a beat too long. That's it. That's the moment the scales tip.
Now, sensing that psychological moment, it sounds like pure art, doesn't it? Just a gut feeling. But here's where the author makes a really bold argument. We should rely on a lot more than just intuition. It's time to bring in some science.
So the book basically draws a line in the sand. On one side, you've got intuition, the rule of thumb. It's kind of like a chef who just feels how much spice to add. On the other side, you have the scientific method. That's the baker who follows a precise recipe, measuring everything to get the exact same perfect result every single time.
And just look at this contrast. The rule of thumb approach is totally personal.
When that one experienced salesperson leaves, their knowledge goes with them. But a scientific approach creates universal principles. It's the difference between having one star player and having a system that makes the whole team amazing, because that knowledge can be taught and it can be scaled.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. The book lays out these practical methods that sound, frankly, way ahead of their time. Statistical investigation is basically 1920s-style A/B testing. Which ad got more coupon responses? Lab experiments could be testing different package designs. And the historical method, well, that's just studying what worked and what failed in the past so you don't make the same expensive mistakes all over again.
All right, this brings us to what feels like the final stage. But as we're about to see, it's not really an ending at all. It's a beginning. It's the true goal of the entire process.
Honestly, this might be the most important insight in this entire book. The sale isn't over when the money changes hands. That's just the halfway mark. A truly successful sale only really happens after the purchase, when that buyer experiences genuine satisfaction with what they bought.
And when that happens, it creates this incredibly powerful cycle. See, a good experience builds that fragile confidence we talked about earlier. It creates goodwill. And that goodwill becomes the perfect foundation for the next sale, making it so much easier to get their attention a second time. You're not just closing one deal, you're creating a loyal customer for life. And so in the end, this century-old psychology leaves us with a really simple but very modern question. Is your goal just to make this one sale, or is it to build a kind of trust and satisfaction that earns your product a permanent, valued spot in that ever-flowing stream of your customer's mind?